Hello and welcome once more to Red Gaming Tech. My name is Amata. Today is the 6th of March and I have some news for you today from Frictional Games, as they have released a ton of details regarding their upcoming game SOMA. And this came from the studio founder Thomas Grip, who said via the PlayStation blog that they are actually on the cusp of having a playable build of the game's first 5 hours out of a game that will last roughly 8 hours when completed. And he said that unlike most games, Frictional basically could not build an ugly prototype to test the core mechanics because, according to them, the game's atmosphere is the mechanics and it's all about how it feels to explore this haunted spaceship. And to be honest, I kind of agree, it is a frictional horror game after all. And his statement reads, quote, "SOMA doesn't rely on a core gameplay loop such as shooting baddies or jumping platforms to create a sense of fun. Instead, you'll take part in a wide range of activities. It's impossible to narrow it down to one. You'll search for notes, solve puzzles, hide from dangers, explore unsettling places, take part in strange events, and sometimes just run away. All of those come together with the graphics and soundscape to create a larger whole. This means that we couldn't properly test SOMA without having all of these things implemented in a fairly final state." And basically, he also touched a little bit on the lack of a single core mechanic, and this is because he didn't want the players to break the game by understanding how the systems worked. And this was a problem that was very much present with the Dark Descent, where many players learned how to adjust their playstyle and it stopped being scary, of course, once you understood how that game worked, the predictability of the monster spawns, that sort of thing. After a while, you would kind of become immune to the scares and, it would stop being as effective after a while. And obviously they didn't want that this time around, and his statement reads, quote, "We don't want the player to become too fixated on figuring out the game's underlying abstract systems. We want players to approach the game from how it looks, sounds and feels. In order for this to work, the game's different scenes can't have the same setup, as that would make you familiar with how everything works. Instead, we need to keep things fresh and avoid repeating ourselves." As well as all this, yes, the information has not stopped yet. He also suggested that SOMA's puzzles will be rather light as to not impede the progression of the player in any real way, kind of how it was done in Amnesia: A Machine for Pigs. And he said, quote, "It's important that the game is constantly drenching the player in storytelling. We need to make sure that there is always a red thread of narrative running through the game. We don't want you to go, oh, here comes a puzzle section, but to constantly feel as you've been told an interactive story. Getting this right is tricky, as there still needs to be some challenge in progressing, but not so much that solving a difficult puzzle becomes your sole focus." Now, this does kind of tie in to a comment that the Machine for Pigs director Dan Pinchbeck said that most players, according to him, never actually completed the Dark Descent. I don't know how true that is, to be honest. I personally have completed it. And I know a fair few people online have, but I don't know. I would assume that people have, but maybe they just played it for a bit and then played the custom stories or something. I don't know. It just seems a bit strange to not complete such a short game, but maybe that's just me. Now, he did continue. This information is nowhere close. Well, it is close to being done. That's me exaggerating. But SOMA will be a hard sci-fi tale, so the level design will need to be a bit more believable than the abstract Amnesia games. And he said, quote, "When creating Amnesia, our setting was basically just old castle where supernatural stuff happens. This allowed us to get away with just about anything and explain it with because magic. But in SOMA, we are building a world that is supposed to be tied into the real world, and to make sense, our goal here is to make a proper sci-fi and not just a magical fantasy with futuristic designs." And he did finish up by saying, quote, "The game should be utterly terrifying. We do not want you to calmly stroll through the various environments. It must be emotionally tasking to progress. We want this blanket of oppression and fear wrapped around the entire experience." Now, that is the end of the rather large glut of information. But they did release a new trailer, which of course will be linked in the description below this video if you wish to check it out. I simply cannot wait for SOMA. I know it's not coming out until next year, but it just sounds so good. The more I hear about it, the more I'm just like, yes, this is the horror game that I've been waiting for. Amnesia: A Machine for Pigs was really a big disappointment for me after the brilliance that was the Dark Descent. So hopefully we can go back to Frictional at their best. I'm really looking forward to this game. So yeah, I guess we're in for the long haul to just wait for it now. Hopefully they'll, give us an early build or something, but I don't see them doing that. They're not the Frictional of old when they needed to give early access to people to actually finish their game. They, of course, have been met with success now, and I doubt we'll see this before they are ready to release it. Anyway, that is me done for this video. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.